free unless they win. That's Jed Lawyers.
Lone Star Boil House and Sports Bar, where the locals go for the best boiled seafood around. Crawfish, shrimp, red royals, and everything crabs. Watch almost every sporting event in the country on their huge outdoor jumbotron. Follow them on Facebook to stay up to date on weekly events, live music, and food and beer specials. Lone Star Boil House and Sports Bar, your home away from home for sports, good times, and great food. The best boiled seafood. Lone Star Boil House and Sports Bar, 320 West, 5th Street, downtown Panama City.
Nathan W. Field Q Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota.
And that's out of the ballpark.
ESPN, Northwest Florida.
Get ready. The Afternoon Underdogs are on the air.
Live and local.
Weekdays from 4 till 6.
This thing is going to be a financial and cultural disaster.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Whopper, 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 whopper.
The Afternoon Underdogs are on the air. ESPN Northwest Florida.
And with the first pick in the ESPN draft, the ESPN Northwest Florida selects Chef Ross to be the host today. You are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is the CBC Construction Studio. I'm sitting here with Coach Dave Ford, and Bone Crusher is pushing the ones and twos. Coach, what'd you think of the draft last night, first round?
First of all, thanks for having me on today. It's great to be here. Always surprises. You know, part of what we like as fans is the unexpected drama. That's expected drama, right? You see it coming from a mile away. I think that most of it was on course. The Travis Hunter pick at number 2 was a bit of a nice surprise. And like I said before the show, being a former employee of the Jags, that's the second favorite team behind my Bucks. And the fact that all day that there have been whispers out there about Shedeur Sanders that he didn't make it in last night. And what are we going to see in the beginning of the second second round of the draft today at number 33? Could it be the Browns? We're all just waiting to see.
Yeah, Shedeur Sanders knew 3 weeks ago that he wasn't going to be a first-day pick, and that's why he is not in Green Bay, Wisconsin right now.
Well, I mean, I guess, that's sort of a conspiracy. Could be. Maybe he got some intel. I think that he probably would have liked to have been there, and it did seem he had a very uncomfortable after party, not so party last night. That was caught on camera with his new company, Legendary. He was hoping to get some camera time last night, so I think some things have kind of not gone his way, and and he's not used to that. I kind of feel for the kid in a way because you still want the dream to come true, right? And as much as he's been in the limelight for as long as he has, obviously we know who his dad is. You don't want to see a kid get embarrassed. I think this is one of those moments where it's time to man up, and it's time to respect the NFL for the business that it is, and understand that you're not under the leadership of your dad anymore, and that can be pretty tough, I'm sure. I've coached my son before, obviously at a lower level, but I think when you come out from under your dad's shadow, if he can, I think we'd all like to see him make his own way.
Yeah. I mean, not all of us can be coached all the way to Division I college level by our father.
Never happens.
Deion had more than enough talent, but at some point, Shedeur's got to fly on his own. He's got to make his own Sanders. And
that's right, make his own Sanders.
That sounded way worse than it did in my head. But yeah, he's got to be his own person and make his own career out of this. And for all athletes, at some point, you got to get out of your father's shadow and be coached up by somebody else. Learn the game a little bit different than what your father can show you.
Sure.
Whether they've played in the NFL or not, they still see the game one way. And it's like a chess game. There's 1,000 different ways to see the game and see the board, so you get to learn something new. Yeah. And I think would have been a whole lot easier for him to do that in high school, where he's got a lot more chances than now in the NFL, where everything has got to be boom on the dime, make the decision and run with it.
Well, this is a unique situation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we literally haven't seen this kind of unicorn opportunity where we've seen all the film that he was in Texas high school. And his dad's there. I mean, this is Deion and his son kind of evolving in front of us, because I don't think any of us ever foresaw Deion becoming a coach. Because usually when you become that good at what you do, you're not so good as a coach. Magic Johnson couldn't pull it off.
Michael Jordan couldn't pull it off.
There's no way Michael Jordan could try to pull it off. I don't think he would even attempt to do that, because how do you play for that man? He's the GOAT. And we saw Larry Bird was one of the few successful ones that got his team to the NBA Finals pretty quickly. But we haven't seen this in football.
No, we see it more in baseball where, like, a really good catcher,
Yes.
Joe Torre, the old Angels manager is blanking my mind right now.
Oh, me too.
Won the World Series with the Cubs, was the Devil Rays manager as well. Madden.
I got you, Madden. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Those type of players were very good on the field, they just happen to both be catchers,
Right.
and are amazing managers.
Yeah, I think getting back to Shedeur today, I don't think any of us would like to see him go to Cleveland, even though I don't think, obviously between you and I, we really don't care what happens to Cleveland. But that is a place that's kind of like Siberia. That's always where it's been. They've never been to a Super Bowl. We touched on that briefly last week. We had a fan call in. He used to be a Bucs fan, went from one orange to the other, like a bad to worse situation from back in the day. We even talked about the Ernest Biner fumble and the drive with John Elway. But, again, Shedeur going to Cleveland, I think, for Deion would be a nightmare at this point. But, again, you don't get to choose.
Yeah.
This is a multi-billion-dollar business. They were aware of that coming in. And you need to go who's calling you. And I think it would be a great situation after he matures for a couple of years. If you throw him in the fire like they did to Baker Mayfield, it's going to end up just like it happened to Baker. They're going to attack him. They're going to expect winning now. That's just the way it is. We're in a microwave society, and they're going to be like, hey, we heard how good you are.
But they're going to do that in New Orleans, too.
Well, sure. Sure they are. Well, and New Orleans has had success. They've had recent success. I mean, they've actually been to Super Bowls, and they won one, whereas Cleveland has never been to the show. They've literally not won anything since pre-Super Bowl days.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of pressure to put on this kid who has never experienced a lot of losing.
Yeah, I mean, even in Colorado, he brought them from a 1-win team to a 7-win team.
Overnight.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of hype, the kind of hype that Colorado hadn't previously had since the 90s when they were a co-champion.
Was that hype Shedeur or was that hype Deion, Coach Prime?
Well, Shedeur actually, I think he kind of ushered his own way. What you just talked about earlier, he started ushering in his own way. Deion brought the show. Everywhere Deion goes, he brings the show. Because of what he produced on the field. You can get that kind of hype when we've seen you do it for almost 30 years. I mean, well, it's actually 30-plus years. We saw him do it at FSU. Deion's always been about the game. Mm-hmm. He was the first of his kind. He was way ahead of his time. Imagine him now with social media. Imagine what kind of animal that would be uncontrollable in the media. But, he predated that kind of stuff in the days of the dinosaurs.
And the good news for Shedeur, even if Cleveland does take him with the first, or I think they have the 5th pick today as well, it's only a 4-year contract. That if he would have went yesterday to somebody horribly or wherever that Deion doesn't want him, there's a 5th-year option. Exactly. Second round or second day players don't get that 5th-year option.
I think too he's going into a situation where obviously with Deshaun Watson, I mean what a bomb blew up in front of them the past 3 to 4 years. So he is a guy where you've got Flacco waiting in the wings, which is great. If you're a Cleveland fan, you feel safe with Joe Flacco because he did get you to the playoffs just 2 seasons ago. It was a 1-round exit, but he still got you there as an old man, right? So Shedeur has time. So I will say that's one positive that I can think of is that you're not going to have to start on day one. They're not going to expect you to do that because you're not a first rounder. They're not paying you that kind of money. In fact, he's probably made more money than that's NIL already. Yeah. And he's come from money anyway. He doesn't need it. But, I mean, if Cleveland passes on him, I think all of us would be shocked if that happened.
If you remember a few years ago, was it Shedeur that Deion tweeted about that you're a Huxtable when you were complaining about money?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great joke then, but now it's become real.
Yeah.
I mean, it's time to see when and how can he be his own man. And I think that obviously he has the tools to be an NFL player. What kind of NFL player he can be, I think, is yet to be determined.
And I don't know if Cleveland physically is the right spot because there's a lot of cold weather games in Cleveland, and with smaller hands, it's a lot harder to grip a football.
Well, he doesn't have a big arm either, right? And the NFL is all about big arms.
But Cleveland does run the ball a whole lot.
Well, they're going to have to now, right? They're going to have to now. They're going to be really relying on their run game. They do have a great defense already. They managed to retain Myles Garrett, which was huge for them in the offseason. Let's be honest, that was probably the biggest move that they made, even no matter what happens today, is that when you retain who could arguably be one of the top 3 to 5 defenders of all time when it's all said and done, that was pretty big. So, they're not in crisis mode just yet. But I'd say if they pass on Shedeur here, and when they're saying plainly that we don't need nor do we want a quarterback, I think that's panic mode for the Sanders family, and I think it's also panic mode for the Cleveland Browns.
I don't know if it's that Cleveland doesn't need or want a quarterback, because the 3 that are available now, Shook from Louisville, Milroe, and Shedeur, all have about the same grade. One's stronger or the other's weaker, but if you look at their grades, they're identical.
But
spots.
which one of those is box office? That's the thing.
Which quarterback, or actually which player in this year's draft is box office?
Well, I'm saying name recognition. We've only been talking about one guy. We're doing it right now, and the guy he's not even an official NFL employee yet.
Yeah, right? he's unemployed. Well, they're all unemployed, actually, that we're talking about.
You're right. I'm just saying he's not an NFL employee yet. And so you look at those names, you see those faces. Let's be honest, Jordan Milroe, I don't put stock in him as a true quarterback. I never have. I think he's a super athlete.
I think he's got the highest upside if somebody can bring him in. The NFL's been trying for a decade to bring Jameson because of his upside.
Oh my goodness!
And he's still the same amount of interceptions as touchdowns.
Yeah, don't get me started on him. Obviously, being a former Buccaneer, never believed in the guy. I mean, if you throw the ball 55 times a game, obviously you're going to get a lot of yardage, right? Yeah. Mike Evans caught the most balls from him. However, he also threw the most interceptions.
Yeah, I was supposed to say, was it Mike Evans or was it somebody on the other teams that would catch the most balls?
Yeah, that whole I can't see. It reminded me of Vinny Testaverde back in the day that he was colorblind. I mean, what are we talking about here? You're just not accurate, okay? And you take big chances. Jameis is one of those personalities where I think he's a really good dude. He's a really good guy, and you'd like to have him around, but you don't want him. You don't want him on 4th and 1 at the opposing line, and he's not going to give you the call. He's just not the guy that's going to bring winning home. You're never going to win with him in the NFL, not the way you need to. So this draft is kind of weird to me, and it feels a little off. It's just very different from what we've seen in the past.
This is the lunchbox draft where everyone's got their lunchbox and coming to work on a daily basis, nothing flashy.
Right.
And Kyle Wright posted on Facebook yesterday that he's not excited for this draft because there isn't anybody. I'm like, watch 5 or 6 Hall of Famers come out of this draft because we don't know anything about anything.
Well, and that could be great for us fans, right?
Yeah.
When guys are coming in hungry and they need to prove something, that could be the best element. The NFL could be like, hey, this could be like really, really awesome for us. Because, again, they're not used to this where you have so many potential guys who are not ready. Like, they're just not ready to go out there and be the guy. They're not ready to be the man yet. And I think that could be great for the product that comes on the field in, say, 2 to 3 seasons when they're saying, remember when this guy got passed up on? We've heard that story before. The Randy Moss syndrome, he passed up on me, I'm going to revenge. Of course, he was an alien. We weren't worried about if he was going to produce or not.
What was it, the Brady 6?
Yes. I've actually rewatched that so many times because as an underdog my whole life, I never get enough of that. And if these guys were wise, I would hope they'd been watching a lot of Brady film because you talk about the most unathletic dude ever, but I
think he's still running his 40.
Yeah, we're still clocking him, right? Even in retirement. But,
No, I'm talking from the combine.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's still running. I don't think he's made it 40 yards yet.
It was bad TV. But, yeah, heart of a lion. And to even as we sit here today, I'm pretty sure Tom still wants to get on the field. He'd be rather doing that.
He's probably the second best quarterback in their building right now.
Don't tempt him. I hope the Raiders don't tempt him to come back.
So instead of talking about people that are not in the NFL, what was the most surprising pick from you last night?
I think, again, I hate to say surprise, but again, I really liked the Travis Hunter pick at number 2 going to the Jaguars. That's a franchise that needs a name outside of the quarterback position. And we've never seen a guy like this come into the league who actually is legit starter on both sides. We have never seen that. And again, we were talking before we came on, can he or will he be allowed to be that two-way starter full-time?
I honestly don't see why he wants to, and this is just strictly as a business decision. There's way too much behind-the-scenes stuff that goes on in an NFL locker room.
Right.
The difference between an all-pro and the 53rd man on the roster is not that big. Everybody's the best of their college. Everybody's the best of their conference.
Right.
So for him, I don't know where he's going to be able to put that much time off the field into it. And not only that, you don't get paid until your second and third contract. If he's playing 200 snaps a game, 150 snaps a game, there ain't no way he's going to get paid like he should be paid.
I will say this, again, as a fan of the game, I am so curious to see if he can. I respect the heck out of that dude for saying that he believes in himself like that, and he's not actually braggadocious about it. He actually believes the stuff that he says.
Yeah.
And so I dig that about him, being a coach, too. Like, I always want an athlete who comes to me who is hungry and humble. Can you give me a mix of that? He's that guy. And he's coming out from under, like we said, one of the biggest personalities we've ever seen in sports. And Travis was so happy last night. He had his family with him. They had realized a dream. I love that. I love seeing the family gathering around who says, we're not entitled to where we're going. And I mean, again, if you're Travis, you're going from cold Colorado to beautiful Jacksonville, Florida. You can't complain about that. You're going to a very hungry franchise who got a taste of the playoffs 2 years ago, and it was a bitter loss, which they shouldn't have given up that game. And you have a quarterback who should have been a generational. We heard he was a can't miss, right? We heard that about him. Well, he's missing so far, you know, and we're not sure. We're not even sure about how he's going to go yet. So this opens up some exciting possibilities, and the fact that he's excited about who he is, what he can do as a fan. I love the pick. I'm excited about it, and I can't wait to watch.
No, it's a great pick, and they're in a very winnable division. I mean,
it's up for grabs.
Yeah.
Completely up for grabs. Who was, I mean, I'll return the question. Who, jumped off the page to you last night?
When the Giants came back in at 25 and drafted Jackson Dart.
Right. Great pick, by the way.
It was. The fact that the Giants spent the most out of any of the 32 football teams recruiting and scouting Shedeur Sanders. The fact they had 3 straight private workouts last week, and they still didn't make that pick. They still picked Jackson Dart over Shedeur.
Right.
That just surprised me. I mean, when I saw them come up, I'm like, all right, this is his only chance to get drafted today.
Well, let's be honest. The general manager, was it Shea, is his name? I mean, his job's on the line after Hard Knocks.
Yeah,
and being
undressed
on Netflix. I mean, was it Netflix? Or,
yeah.
No, it's Max.
HBO Max.
It's Max. Being undressed on reality TV over last summer, you had to come back with something to I mean, because you can't really renew yourself after you let Barkley go.
No.
You just can't. That's one he's going to wear with egg on his face forever, to see the guy go to win a Super Bowl and be pretty much the dude who led them there. And he should have been the MVP of the league, and you just let him walk, right? He wanted to stay with your franchise. So that move last night to get Dart was intelligent. I think it was well thought out. Obviously, the writing was on the wall, like, okay, you guys need to produce picks here and that hit right away.
Get Abdul on the best player in the draft at 3. That's a no-brainer.
Yes.
I don't know why he didn't go 1 or 2. I mean,
I wanted him for the Bucs really bad.
Yeah, there was no way. I don't know why Tennessee didn't take him. Tennessee's got a billion leaks in their roster.
Yes.
Abdul fills a big one. And this has always been the weakest quarterback class. So if you're ever not going to take quarterback 1 overall, you do it when there isn't that stud. And I don't think Cam Ward is that stud. I think Cam Ward's good. I think Cam Ward's above average. But he's not that.
He's a question mark, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because he was the best of this draft. But what is that really saying?
He would have been, 12th last year?
Yes.
If he would have came out?
Even the year before that, right? Cam's got some zip on his ball. You know, I mean, obviously he is also supremely confident. But when he gets back in the pocket, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I heard a lot of people say, he's very awkward back there. He's flat-footed. He just stands there, right? I remember watching him against Florida last year, and I'm like, how long is he just going to stand there and not move? I was waiting for him to get just cut in half by a D-end, and somehow he gets out of it. Somehow he's got a pocket presence. It's very unorthodox, let's say that.
He's got a lot of fourth quarter magic that you really want to see. So I do like that. I love that with Tebow. You got garbage for 3 quarters, and all of a sudden, flip the switch. I'm leading you to the promised land.
But is that a good thing? Again, in the NFL, as you and I both know, you have to be consistent. You have to be delivering for 4 quarters. College allows you, if you are supremely talented, to stand above the rest.
Even in the NFL, the year that Tebow played for the Broncos, as long as they were close going in that 4th quarter, you knew what was happening.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. We could do a whole show about how that went. I enjoyed it. I'm a big Tebow guy, not a Florida fan, but a big Tebow guy. And you talk about a heart of a lion and just loving the game of football the way that he did. And my God, I mean, you had a serial killer on your team, and you still got to national championships. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. Wow. But a lot of magic going on, I think, in the first round last night. But again, very just weird is the word I can come up with, because it just didn't feel like draft night, like they had to overhype it just to get you to watch. Yeah,
and it ended up being one of the most watchable drafts I can remember. There was drama. The clocks were moving. Yes. Nobody was there wasn't a lot of teams taking the full 10 minutes.
It was a fast pace.
I know. And that's what I want to see. Like, ESPN was holding them up so they could talk about the other picks.
It seemed like we had our first 5 picks in like the first 25 minutes. I know that's not the case, but it seemed like that last night.
I'm just really glad that Tennessee didn't take the full 10 minutes.
Well, no. I mean,
we knew
you couldn't get more
2 weeks ago.
That. And if you pass on him, then you're telling your fans that you don't care about winning.
Yeah.
And you can't fail on a second quarterback in 4 years either.
No, not at all. All right, so it looks like we got to go pay some bills here. When we come back, we'll find out about author Dave Ford.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Weather in the Panhandle never stops. Turn to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with your latest forecast.
Up to the minute weather reports all day long.
A chance of thunderstorms and moderate rain.
In-depth storm coverage.
Winter Storm Enzo.
And breaking weather as it happens.
Hurricane Helene.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
We do have a tropical storm warning.
Rely on it.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Friday afternoon. The remainder of the day, mostly sunshine and 80 with a moderate breeze at 13 miles per hour coming out of the south. For tonight, a mixture of slight fog and some clouds and a low near 69. Tomorrow, slightly foggy in the morning followed by mostly sunshine and a high around 81. For Sunday, slight fog and a high of 82. This weather forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Want to experience the ultimate car wash? At Tommy's Express, you'll love our open and bright tunnels, easy loading, flat belt conveyor, unlimited membership, and free vacuums and mat washers. Try us for free. Text WASH 415 to 86697 to send our best wash, The Works, directly to your phone. You'll love the sudsy clean, ceramic wax, underbody flush, spot-free rinse, and tire gloss. Experience the difference and visit Tommy's Express today. Offer valid to new guests only. By participating, you consent to receive promotional and information text from Tommy's Express. Message and data rates may apply. Message frequency varies.
Are you looking for a place to take a leak? Do you have a truck, tractor, or other hydraulic equipment leaking or not performing as it should? At Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, we can get you back to work. Do you have a busted or leaking hose? Hydraulic cylinder or pump needing repair? If competitive pricing and a quick turnaround are what matter to your business, come see us at Reliable Hydraulic Solutions. Or you can give us a call at 850-326-3000. Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, 6840 Highway 77 in Southport. The best place in town to take a leak.
It's been an up-and-down start for the 2025 Atlanta Braves, which means every win counts more than ever.
Michael swings and hits one way up in the air, streaking out of the ballpark as the kid strikes again.
Tonight, the Braves head west for another big National League Series win as they square up against the Arizona Diamondbacks at Chase Field.
Pre-game coverage begins at 7:25. First pitch, 8:40. Your home for the Braves, ESPN Northwest Florida.
He's so old, he buys his clothes at the same store he buys his groceries.
Are you wearing a grocery bag?
I talk sports in my underwear. I'm going to wear nothing but a thong and a top hat.
Caveman Rick is part of the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
All right, welcome back inside the CBC Construction Studio. Don't forget to give us a call or text 850-215-6290. Let us know what you thought about your team's pick last night, or better yet, let us know what you think your team needs to do over the weekend. Once again, the Braves open up a 3-game series at the Arizona Diamondbacks tonight. Coverage starting at 7:25. First pitch is 8:40. So, Coach Ford, I see you wrote a couple of books over there.
Yeah, a couple, 2, 3, right? It's been one heck of a journey, and it's one of those things that I kind of forget about that I even did, because it's not even an ego thing. I didn't intend to be an author at any point. I just kept having people tell me, if you want to do speaking engagements, you need to have some books behind it,
Yeah.
And I've been writing since I was 15. I got published for the first time at 17 years old. And I've been a journalist. I've been in public relations. I've done a whole lot of writing in my life, but it's pretty intimate stuff. A lot of it is our personal stories of failures. And I think, being a mentor, being a coach, and being a leader of young people, I think it's important to let them know about your failures, because a lot of them think that you standing in front of them is the only version that you've ever been. They don't understand the climb to that.
One of my favorite books is Failing Forward by Maxwell.
Absolutely. And the first quote that I put on the board every time I get into a classroom, no matter what it is failing to prepare is preparing to fail, by John Wooden. And, that's not a lot of people's favorite, but if you just read it over and over again to yourself, it not only does it make sense, it's common sense. And if you start living by that kind of creed and by that track in your life, it actually kind of helps keep you walking down the middle of the road. I started on this about back in 2023, and I actually have 2 Facebook coaching channels. I have Coach Ford Motivate, and I also have my regular one, just my personal one. And I was just making graphics every day. I was just putting motivational messages out there. They were just one-liners. And then I'm like, you know what? I think this first book, I'm going to put together everything I've done for 3 years. And I made it 365 pages. So you're just getting one a day. And I'm like, look, nobody reads now, right?
Yeah.
Unless they're reading stuff about dragons and rainbows and unicorns, which I give my fiance a hard time. She loves that stuff. But that's the popular stuff, right?
It is.
I understand that the whole category of motivation and inspiration is saturated. I get it. You don't want people just shouting at you saying, hey, get off the couch, go lose some weight, go start eating good. Nobody wants to hear that. So the space I stay in is positive mental health.
Yeah, and don't take this the wrong way, but the top 2 books look like perfect bathroom reading books, because that's the size they are.
And that's what I was going for.
I'm not saying that you should leave them in the bathroom, but they're the size. You're in there for a few minutes, flip through a couple pages.
That's what I was going for. We're in a microwave society where people just don't give time to reading. And it's a bunch of quick hitters in there. Again, personal stories about coaching, being coached, falling, getting back up. And, like the biggest one I have is the Show Up For You, Daily Motivation for the Grind Called Life. That's the book of one-liners where it gives context. And that's actually, every one-liner that's in there has context to this is what happened to me and this is what this means.
So what page is you're going to be living in a van down by the river?
That's in the glossary. No, I mean, it's just, here's the thing. I have students ask me, so, they unfortunately get impressed by the fact that I've written something. And so what I take them down a notch and I say, look, please don't be impressed by that. Anything at all, what I'm trying to get you to understand is that I'm not the best version of me standing before you today. None of us ever arrive. We should all be working on ourselves every single day to try to be better than the day before.
Yeah.
And one of the T-shirts I wear is from a company called Compete Every Day, and it says Beat Yesterday. And that's just something that is a part of my daily diet is I'm trying to be better and do better than I did the day before.
100%.
So it's fun for me to do it. Not only do I write about it, I live it. And I actually transformed everything about my body and the way that I look 5 years ago when COVID hit. I was a contractor on base at Tyndall, and we were ordered to go home. And we had to telework, and there was no argument. And so that's what we had to do. So at the time, I was, I've been 6 feet since I was 17 in high school. So 6 feet, and I was about 220 pounds, which is way more than my frame is supposed to hold. And so I started working out from 2 days a week. I went to 5 days a week. And one thing led to another. I have a really bad back. And so I started having to strengthen my core. So next thing I knew, about 2 years later, I got down to 195. And then 2 years ago, I got down to 190. Now, as I sit across from you, I'm 6 feet, 184 pounds. So I'm trim, I'm healthy, I feel great. And the cool thing is nobody guesses my age. And so that's one of those things that, look, we all need a little bit of boost. You know, even the most confident of us walking around, we need a compliment once in a while. You know, especially being men, there's a lot of stuff on us. We're expected to look a certain way. We're supposed to sound a certain way. We all have self-esteem issues. And we all need a little bit of a kick in the pants saying, hey, man, you know, just pick your head up. And that's something that I actually enjoy doing, is finding a student that's walking towards me who's trying not to make eye contact. And so I go out of my way and say, hey, hope you have a great day today. And they're kind of looking at me like, who the heck are you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, high school is not what it was when I went. Y'all have some different things that you got to deal with. You've got weapons. You've got a lot of crime. You got a lot of peer pressure on social media.
Ton of keyboard warriors.
We didn't have that. You know, if somebody had a problem with you, they were either going to come face to face or it was going to be a phone call. Or it didn't happen at all, right? And so now anybody can be anywhere, anytime. 2:30 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock at night. They can buzz you with a text. They can get you with a personal message on social media. And then all of a sudden, your anxiety goes up, your cortisol level goes up, and you're worried about the next day. And it has nothing to do with your studies. It has nothing to do with the test you got to take. It's about, am I going to get in trouble because somebody's going to press me? These kids are the most stressed out generation, data-wise, that we've ever seen, you know, and so that's something that I really am concerned about. And we talked about this on the show last week, that I'm trying to do as much as I can to try and curve that a little bit. So every day I walk into that room, which again, if you know, just to keep everybody up to speed, I'm the ISS teacher and coach at Bay High School. And it's something that, even though it wasn't a part of my life 5 and 6 weeks ago, I've embraced it. I actually really enjoy doing it. I get a different crop almost every day.
I do want to say real quick, though, that those text messages, social media posts can go both ways. You can send the positive thing at 3 in the morning as much as you can send the negative thing.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And I think that not only is that good to do it, it makes you feel good doing it. It's the same thing as do unto others as you want done unto you, the golden rule. That's never going to change. That never gets old. But now we need it more than ever, you know, and it's incumbent upon our generation to pass that kind of stuff along, because kids now are just looking with their heads down. Unfortunately, you know, they're getting curved backs because they're looking at their phones, right? But if they're not looking at that, they're just looking at the ground because they're discouraged. Yeah. You know, they are literally just beaten up on the inside because they have a lot of noise in their head. And it's really paramount for us as adults, as parents, as coaches, mentors, whoever it is. If you have a spot of leadership that you can reach a young person who's between like the ages of 12 and maybe say 23, right? I think that's pretty much the range that the data says is the most in trouble. You know, these kids have ideation of taking their lives. They really do. They have the ideation that I'm just going to run away and things are going to get better. That's the things that we're seeing recently. Is you're seeing Facebook posts, I think 3 times in the last 5 days, where kids are running away. And, you know, we had runaways in our generation too, but it was mainly one of those things just to get a minute and you came back home. You scared your parents, you came back home. I never thought about doing that. I wouldn't even think of doing that. But these kids now actually not only think about it, they entertain it, and then they act on it. So we got to do something about that. You know, I'm not really sure what that is, but it's going to take one kid at a time. And something that I've enjoyed doing this position as the ISS coach is I do have a lot of kids who come in who they are not bad kids. You know, against popular opinion, they are not bad kids. These kids are highly intelligent. They have things that they want to do. They have things that they're interested in. They just don't have a lot of people who believe in what they're doing. And, you know, they act up in class, and they say some things they shouldn't say, and then I get them. And so I try to turn them around the best I can.
So how would we normalize mental health check-ins like we do with physical check-ins?
Well, I think obviously that's going to start with the medical community. You know, people have to step up and understand that there shouldn't be a money grab with that. Yeah. I'm one of those proponents who say, can we try to make therapy not only covered under insurance policies, but we need to try to make it free. And now I know that psychiatrists and psychologists won't like that, but I think we need some sort of starting ground, because a lot of people want to say, oh, there's no stigma anymore. Well, no, that's a lie. There's still a lot of stigma out there, especially for me and you as males. There's a whole lot of stigma out there still. And I hear it all around school all the time. So we're our age. These kids are between 13 and 17 years old. The stereotypes are there. You're supposed to be a man, supposed to stand up, supposed to be tough all the time. You can't cry, don't look soft, all this stuff, right? Now, the females have it too, where females are expected to be, look a certain way, act a certain way. We got a lot of things that are going on. It's getting louder and louder and louder. So as far as healthcare goes, somehow, some way, the powers that be who make these decisions, who put the money behind these bills, they need to figure out a way where mental health analysis is not only something that we need to get out in the mainstream, it's something that even when you're doing well, I think you need to go to therapy. I'm one of those people who I did that 2 years ago. I actually went to betterhelp.com online when they were just getting off the ground. I really enjoyed it.
So I've been dealing with some grief and stuff in my life right now. My dad, both of my parents have passed away 1 year apart from each other.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And I went to therapy, and it's, what kind of prescriptions can I give you? I don't want prescription.
No, we don't want that.
I don't want to get drugged. I don't want to be on this bottle, that bottle, this other thing.
No.
I want flat out, let's
deal with it.
How can I deal with this? How can I walk through this? Let's go on a path, because if I break a bone, I go to the doctor, they've said it, they put a cast. You have 6 weeks in the cast, then you do physical therapy.
You
for
have
the
a plan.
Yeah.
Right.
For mental health, I feel like there's really no plan other than this drug, that drug.
Well, yeah, it's like, let's get you some medicine, let's get you some pills, and that has been standard ops, right, since the beginning of time. Before that, it was going to take you to a mental ward, right? Yeah. It really wasn't attacking the problem; it was letting the problem attack us, right? So I think we need to flip the script on that. And let's be honest, time does not heal all wounds. Time just gives you more time to deal with those, right? Yeah. Now, as I said last week, I'm very blessed. I still have my parents at my age, which I know is very rare. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that every single day. I don't take that for granted. I know when that day comes that is probably going to be the most devastating thing to me that I've ever experienced. And so grief is real. Grief doesn't have a statute of limitations. And, you can't control your thoughts. You can't control when they are intruding. The only thing that you can really try to control is how you react, and upon that reaction, how are we going to deal with it? And again, like you said, we want to try to deal with these things organically, talk them out, find out what works for you, find out what doesn't work for you.
Because getting on these, and if you're dependent on these pills for your life, I'm not downplaying you at all. I know they're needed.
No, not at all.
I had to say that because I know they're needed. I don't want people to feel like I'm coming at them.
Not at all.
I'm not. I'm speaking from my personal experience is I don't want to numb the pain. I want to live in the pain and get through the pain.
Look, depression is real. Right?
100%.
And some of us deal with it more than others. I think if everyone is really being honest, everybody has experienced it. I think if you say out loud that you haven't, I think you're lying to yourself, and I think you're lying to those around you.
First time the girl breaks up with you in middle school, depression's real.
It just didn't have a label, right? And as we're in this age now, we're starting to get terms that they do make sense. It doesn't mean that we need to throw them around all the time as maybe like some sort of a cloak of excuses. We don't need to be using it as a crutch. But as I've been, very transparent about, my oldest daughter, she suffers from bipolar disorder, and that was something as her father, I had never experienced that up close and personal, and I didn't think it was going to happen to my kid. So there was no time to go, oh my gosh, what are other people going to think about her and me? It was, how can I help my little girl?
Yeah.
How can I help her to stand up for herself and not be a victim, but to say, okay, I have this. I'm going to embrace it. And I can't worry about the way people look at me, which she did. I've shared that story. She was locking herself in the bathroom in high school, and the anxiety was kicking up. That's where Show Up For You came from. That's where the book originated from. And I share that in the opening credits. That was the origin story of that, where we both came together, and it was like the ultimate bond of support. And that actually helped her get to graduation on time. Now, had we not come up with that mantra, I think she still would have gotten there, but it might have been a little bit late. Yeah. And so the power of the mind is incredible.
Oh, 1,000%.
Now, I'm not saying that all of us can just flick a switch. Some of us are stronger mentally than others, and that's okay. Not everybody can be on the same level.
And that's okay to need the help.
It's okay not to be okay. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely okay not to be okay.
That was my mantra for the first 6 months going through the darkest of the depression.
Sure.
Or not depression. Yeah, I guess it was depression.
It was.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Going through that depression stage of grief was, I'm not okay, and it's okay that I'm not okay.
Right, because, you're trying to figure out what life is without your parents.
Yeah.
Because growing up, we have them, right? And we get told by...
And I was blessed with a great set of parents.
And that's awesome, because I don't hear that a whole lot.
No.
I don't hear it with the stories that are shared with me, which is sad, because I have wonderful parents. And, they split up when I was 7, but that's the worst thing that happened to me as a child. I had a wonderful childhood. They were both on the same page with discipline. Mm-hmm. I knew exactly what was expected of me, and I didn't make it hard on them. I was an easy kid to deal with, and they were always up front with me, like, this is the way it is. Just because you're coming to my house and you're getting 2 Christmases and you're getting 2 Thanksgivings, which, hey, that's a bonus for a kid.
Especially a kid that likes to eat.
Exactly. It's like, hey, you're not going to get away with anything over here that you're not getting away with over at your mom's. And so that's something I've told them, like, I really respect that about y'all, that you did that for me, because I wouldn't have been the same guy had I been allowed to get away with some of the things that kids take advantage of with that.
So where can people find you this weekend?
I'm going to be at the Bookish Boutique, which is downtown on Harrison. It's very easy to find. Now, I know there's still a lot of construction down there. It's not the easiest place to get to, but it's the only pink business that's down there. And that's a great place. Jenny Kelly's the owner. She's been great to me. This is my 3rd book signing since October of last year, so it's been pretty rapid. And it's an honor and a privilege. It really is to be an author, and you're going to a place where reading is cool, because reading is not cool now. It's just not. If you don't have a tablet and you don't have a phone, people are not reaching for things that actually have paper pages anymore. Now, I know that makes me sound super old, but that's cool. I'm a journalist from back in the day, and I was the one saying back in 2010, hey, pretty soon you're not going to be able to roll up the Sports Illustrated and take it with you. Here we are, right? Yeah. The writing was on the wall. So it's an honor to be in the world of authors. I'm also an editor. I'm saying shout out to Willie Spears, who's the greatest motivational speaker that I've been around. He has got it locked down in Panama City. He's a great dude. He's a great friend. His book is going to be coming out soon called Fathers Matter. And I'm really, really psyched about that. So that's the 3rd book I've edited for him. So shout out to Willie Spears. And he's actually going to show up on Sunday. He's going to come see me. And so, everybody's invited. Obviously, I've told my students about it. Present students, past students, players, coaches.
ESPN listeners.
Everybody. And then look, I don't expect anybody to come get a book. I have never asked anybody to show up and buy my book. I get kids saying, hey, where can I find it? They're like, is it on Amazon? I'm like, yeah, it is. I'm like, but I'm not going to steer you there. If you want to, I bring my books to class. And I'm like, look, if you don't want to do your classwork, and I'd rather you not sleep. So how about you flip through my book? And like you pointed out earlier, it's not intimidating when you look at this.
What is that one, 30 pages?
That's 25. I mean, how can you say, oh my gosh, that's too hard? So I've had several kids who have just read it cover to cover, which is not hard to do. That was the whole thinking behind it. Now, to me, I'm like, it doesn't look good, right? It's like you can't even stand it up because it doesn't even have a spine to it. The only one that has a spine to it is Show Up For You. But I just had to get over the ego part. I'm like, I just want kids to read it. I just want them to see that, hey, look, he's a teacher. He's in front of me. He's doing well. He's semi-successful. And he failed too, So I think that's important.
All right, when we get back, it is time for Traffic Jam and Trivia. You're listening to ESPN Radio 104.3 in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe.
A 2-run home run.
The Atlanta Braves are back.
Here comes the throw. It's late. Braves win.
And ESPN Northwest Florida is your exclusive radio home for Braves country.
He just wrecked that thing. Straight away center, a homer for Riley.
Sales, Strider, Acuna, Ozzie, Riley, Profar, and Coach Snitker lead a stellar lineup. Listen live nights and weekends on ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Friday afternoon. The remainder of the day, mostly sunshine and 80 with a moderate breeze at 13 miles per hour coming out of the south. For tonight, a mixture of slight fog and some clouds and a low near 69. Tomorrow, slightly foggy in the morning followed by mostly sunshine and a high around 81. For Sunday, slight fog and a high of 82. This weather forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Tired of flipping through channels and finding nothing good? Introducing Scorpion TV. Over 5,000 live streaming channels. Catch every game of the season with over 100 sports networks, including ESPN, ESPN Plus, the NFL Network, and Red Zone. Even pay-per-view events. Watch 400 local network channels from Panama City and most markets throughout the country. Fox, ABC, CBS, and NBC. It's more than sports. Scorpion TV offers premium movie channels like HBO, Cinemax, Stars, 200 plus entertainment and news networks, or watch thousands of movies on demand, all for just $45 a month when you use the ESPN NW promo code at checkout. Watch on up to 5 devices at the same time. Perfect for sharing with family and friends. Scorpion TV gives you everything you want for less. Cut the cord, not the fun. To score Scorpion TV, go to ESPNPC.com and click on the Scorpion TV logo. Don't forget our promo code ESPN NW.
The next evolution in sports talk radio. It's the Afternoon Underdogs.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Weekdays from 4 till 6. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
All right. Don't forget to give us a call back. 850-215-6290. The traffic jam and trivia question for the day is... I lost it. Which MLB player holds the record for the most career Grand Slams? The winner of the trivia gets $25 to that boot store, a 12-pack of Buffalo Rock, and an amazing Mountain Dew t-shirt. Again, the phone number is 850-215-6290. So this is Chef Ross here taking over the Afternoon Underdogs for the last segment of the week, or the last day of the week. We got more segments to go, sorry. Don't forget the Braves play tonight. Coverage starts at 7:25. First pitch at 8:40. They are taking on those Snakes in Arizona. Dirty Snakes. I'm sitting here with Coach Ford in studio, as well as Bone Crusher.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Absolutely.
So we're here talking about mental health and athletics. Coach Ford has a great book signing coming up on Sunday. So what does mental recovery look like to you?
Mental recovery, what does that look like to me? First of all, it's a great question. It's a tough question, and it's subjective, right? And it's an opinion. But what I would say that it looks like to me is putting in the work. So let's break down what that means. There's a lot to putting in the work when you're trying to make a comeback, if you've got a setback from mental, emotional, any kind of depression, any kind of mental illness. Putting in the work for me is, like I said before, therapy. However you can get that, wherever you can get it, and how often you can get it, please do that, even when things are good. And not to get too spiritual here, but if you're a praying person, you shouldn't just pray when things are bad. You need to pray when things are good, too. And find your anchor. And that's not actually mine. That's from The Rock. That's from Dwayne Johnson himself. He said this 2 years ago on his Instagram. He said, find your anchor. And obviously his is lifting weights. And that just so happened to work for me, too. Every single day of the week, no matter how late it gets, no matter how banged up I feel. And let me tell you, the inflammation, the discs in the back are bulging. They are herniated. That is very real, and it's not exaggeration. But I make sure I get out in the garage 5 days a week, whether it's cardio, whether it's doing the weights on the legs, the upper body. I get it done. And I have to go even inside my limitations. So even if I don't feel great about the workout itself, I've had to learn recently to put the ego aside and say, you need to do this for you. Because if you don't get this done today, number one, the guilt comes.
Yeah.
And there's that phrase that I talked about with a student today, my inner me is my enemy. We all have an inner dialogue. And I think most of us, unfortunately, have one that kind of tells us that we're not good enough. It tells us that we didn't do enough. And that's tough.
How true is it that if you told me a third of the things that I tell me, I'd kick the living crap out of you?
It's absolutely true.
But yet we do it to ourselves all the time.
And I actually told this to my fiance sometime last year. I'm like, you can't say something to yourself that you wouldn't say to somebody else. Now, obviously, the retort is, well, sure I can, because nobody hears it, right? But let's really think about how damaging that is. How are you actually going to heal from anything, much less be greater or even be good, if you're constantly punching down on yourself? Yeah. That's a phrase I actually like to use that a lot, because not only is it visual, but if you feel a force coming down on you, that's your mental health saying, hey, you did 15, 16 things that were really awesome today, but you could have done 17, so why didn't you do that?
Or you failed at these 2 over here and not worry about the 20 plus things you did right.
It doesn't matter if you just did one thing great in a day, right? You need to give yourself that pat on the back. That's a small win. I say that in my house. That's a small win. And obviously everything is judged. We all keep score, whether we admit that we do or not. If it's sports, whether it's life, whether it's money, whether it's success, we're all keeping score. We all judge silently. It doesn't make it right, right? And so if it's you, what does that mental recovery look like? You got to have that anchor at the end of the day, because you're going to get a lot of crap from a lot of people, whether it's coworkers, whether it is your kids, whether it's your spouse. It could be your parents. It could be anybody. You're going to catch it. It's life. Life is tough. And I tell these kids, you're going to lose a lot more than you're going to win, just as being a coach and an athlete. I remember my losses more than I do my wins.
I mean, look at the Major League Baseball. You fail 7 times out of 10, and you're a Hall of Famer.
Yes, because that's one of those things that actually could be positive mental health, couldn't it? You could flip that on its head, whereas
I only got to get it right 3 times.
Yeah, you and I both know that, try to be that person where you're seeing a 98-mile-an-hour fastball screaming at you, and you have to see the threads on that thing. Mm-hmm. That's next to impossible. That's why not a lot of guys can do it, right? And so, if you flip that on its head, that can actually make you feel a whole lot better about what you're doing in your life.
Yeah, I take that a lot through just regular life. Hey, in this sport here, if I'm fail 7 times out of 10, 70% of the time, those people are still in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
If I miss 7 out of 10 tackles in the NFL, well, in high school football, I'm not even on the team.
Right, exactly. And that's why it's helped me in my life to actually look at life through sports. It makes sense to me that way. I learned all my life skills through sports as well. Failing, succeeding, winning, losing, tying.
Sports are a great teacher.
They're incredible. I've always said sports in the military. There you go. I mean, where else are you going to learn that kind of discipline for yourself? Where are you going to find out if you're a leader? Of course, you have to be able to follow first before you can lead.
So what's the biggest misconception coaches still have about mental toughness?
Wow.
That one just jumped off the
That
paper.
you're weak. I think a lot of coaches who, I'm just going to be honest, who are aging out are showing their age when they look at a young person. And even if they don't say it out loud, they can treat them in a certain way that makes them look weak. And in the heat of the moment, sometimes you say things you don't mean, and I love to win. I actually hate to lose more than I love to win.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things. And so I think what all of us as coaches, teachers, mentors can do is just do a better job of, you can always tell the truth. Figure out a more creative way to do it, especially for this generation right now. They are sensitive, and I'm not downplaying that. It's a way that we need to make them feel stronger. I think it's up to us to feel more empowered.
So piggybacking off of that, how do you balance pushing players to their limits while also protecting their well-being?
Well, to me, it comes pretty easy. I know for a lot of people it's hard. I've been coaching for 30 years now, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And so sometimes that gets lost where the experience comes in. If you keep everybody on the same page that we're all here together, it's a team thing. Like, we're doing this show right now. It takes me, you, it takes the producer. We all have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
We have to talk about pre-show. We have to talk about post-show. I don't know about you, but I actually I go home and I watch the film back. That's the athlete in me. Mm-hmm. That's the former radio show host. That's me saying, again, that's the inner dialogue, right? So I have to try and brace for that, saying, hey, it doesn't mean that I sucked. It doesn't mean I did terrible. It just means I just could have tightened things up here and there. You know, the uhs, the I don't knows, the ums, right?
Yeah.
It happens because you have that space and it's live and you have to fill that space. So, you know, balance is something I think we're all trying to reach for. But when you're a coach, I think it's more achievable in that way to say, look, it can't be always about what the scoreboard says. I believe every coach and teacher's job is to teach these kids what are we doing on the court and on the field and on the baseball diamond that you can relate to outside of these walls. How can I help you say, okay, this is about hitting a ball with a bat. This is about putting a ball in a net. But outside of here, can you be successful? And what does that look like? That means don't get in trouble. That means be respectful to your parents. That means be respectful if you have a pastor or wherever you work for. But number one, respect yourself enough that you're going to go out there and give 100%. Don't show me that you're going to go try and slam dunk on a Friday night, but you're not going to go in the classroom and be a student first.
Yeah, and it also goes into how much you're putting into these kids. Yeah. You're not going to go the very first day of the practice, hard, run, do you like they did back in the day with the two-a-days and you see on the movies. You're not going to do that very first day, but mid-season, you've got enough put in there that, hey, I know you've got my back, so I'm going to let you push me harder than the rest of the time.
The coaches who get success now are the ones who are creative and the ones who evolve and that can identify every personality on their team. You have to know the names of every one of your players, not just the ones that you favor, not just the ones that are producing for you. You need to know the ones who are also on the bench being the cheerleaders.
Who was it this last March Madness was screaming at their player on the camera, and the media blew up on it, but the player was okay because he knew, again, that the coach had his back.
Was that Izzo?
It could have been Izzo.
I mean, he's old school, right? And even Patino was in the mix. And that didn't really work out for him too well. His team didn't get past the second round.
I just remember the whole thing where the news media blew it up, and I think it's actually Stephen A. Smith, believe it or not, being the words of wisdom here.
Right.
I can't believe I can say that, but he's like, you know, these kids, these coaches are putting in heart and effort and everything into these kids.
Right.
It's okay to get on them once in a while.
Well, obviously, I'm going to support that because that's my era, right? And that was done to me as an athlete, and I have actually been a hybrid of both old, present, and new. And depending on everything's situational. And so the way you react and the way that you received, did you get your message across? Was it communicated? I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I mean, you see a lot of the old school coaches leaving, blaming NILs and the transfer portal.
Well, that's easy excuse, right?
It is, but it's also the truth. You not only, as a college coach, have to recruit the new incoming freshmen, you have to recruit your entire team twice a year, every year.
It complicates things to where that's something a coach should not have to deal with. I'll say that. That's not something we coaches sign up for. I was actually asked about this 2 years ago about, okay, so when it gets into high school, what are you going to do about it? I'd say, I'm just going to do the same thing I always do. I'll have a conference with the parent and say, look, if you want to take your kid down the street for more money, cool. As long as I got 7, I have 2 coming off the bench, I'll roll with that.
All right. Time to pay the bills. And when we come back, it is the second hour of the Afternoon Underdogs. We'll talk a little bit of headlines throughout the day.
ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show.
If you play football long enough, you are going to get hurt.
He has pardoned Jelly Roll for a home invasion robbery, I think 2002.
Decision has been finalized.
It has been made, and I want to tell you something. We've got a great history in Tennessee about pardons and paroles. Governor Blanton used to sell them.
Weekday morning 7 to 9, ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Friday afternoon. The remainder of the day, mostly sunshine and 80 with a moderate breeze at 13 miles per hour coming out of the south. For tonight, a mixture of slight fog and some clouds and a low near 69. Tomorrow, slightly foggy in the morning, followed by mostly sunshine and a high around 81. For Sunday, slight fog and a high of 82. This weather forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
TK Vandy Roofing and General Contracting is a fifth-generation contracting company based right here out of Bay County. TK Vandy's expertise in commercial and residential roofing, as well as a design, build general contractor, set them aside as a versatile and fresh alternative to achieve your construction needs. Contact TK Vandy Roofing, 850-866-9908, or email support@tkvandy.com. They can't wait to help you. It's been an up-and-down start for the 2025 Atlanta Braves, which means every win counts more than ever.
Michael swings and hits one way up in the air, streaking out of the park as the kid strikes again.
Tonight, the Braves head west for another big National League Series win as they square up against the Arizona Diamondbacks at Chase Field.
Pre-game coverage begins at 7:25. First pitch, 8:40. Your home for the Braves, ESPN Northwest Florida.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Fort St. John. Powered by Panama City Toyota, ESPN Northwest Florida.
We are back for hour number 2 for the... Wow, I've done too many radio shows today. This is the Afternoon Underdogs, not the Inside Drive. That was from 11 to 1 and every weekday. Whew. So, yeah. Coach Ford, on to you.
Let's keep the game going with ESPN Northwest Florida. Now on your smart speaker for in-home listening. Just say, Alexa, open ESPN Northwest Florida. Just because you get out of the car doesn't mean the Sports Talking Live play-by-play end. Keep the game going. Hey, Alexa, open ESPN Northwest Florida. If needed, head over to www.espnpc.com and click Enable Skill.
All right, that's awesome. And by the way, the Braves are starting to heat up, so they're starting to play some good baseball here.
Baseball is my weak point, my man. So, yeah, I can talk old baseball, but new school baseball, I am super weak on that.
Yeah,
I'll just be honest.
I've said for a long time that once we go to robo-umps, they probably lost a fan in me.
No doubt. We got to keep the human element in sports in general, right?
100%, because baseball alone, instant replays killed one of my favorite parts, and that's when the umpire got the call wrong. The manager goes out, screams ballistic, throws things, grabs the base. Like, Lou Piniella would not be a good manager today.
No, I mean, but doesn't that speak to, again, the microwave society, give it to me now, speed everything up? Why are we
Everything's got to be perfect.
Why are we hurrying through everything? Sports used to be an experience.
Yeah.
Right? But look, we all like how, let's get the call right. I think we agree as fans on that. But I think we also enjoyed where the humans were trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
And there's a right way and a wrong way to do it.
So a couple of headlines I want to touch on. This one's a little bit sad, but it's starting to turn positive. Was Elia Arenas, the son of former NBA player Gilbert Arenas, and top recruit for USC basketball, was in a really bad one-vehicle car accident last night. That was very touched on behind the NFL draft through ESPN. Safe to say that he is out of the coma, so he's doing a lot better. And as I'm reading through this article, he asked his parents if anyone was injured in the accident because he remembers seeing the smoke through his Cybertruck.
This is intense. You know, it's intense. It's emotional.
This is where life meets sports.
Exactly. And we all get too caught up in the sports and we lose track of life itself, right? And I think that this is one of those, I hate to say, but a sobering reminder that it's not just a cliche when you say you can't take life for granted. You need to be saying the things that you should say to your loved ones, your friends, the people that you care about and that care about you, because everything can turn, on less than a dime. And that's pretty scary stuff.
Yeah. And another thing that just broke this afternoon is John Morant is out from Game 4 with his hip injury, which means that series is over.
John Morant, what a guy who should be further ahead right now than where he is. And I know that there's been a lot of stuff out there that, again, has been punching down on him. But I have to say that he brought on a lot of that to himself, where getting on Instagram became more important than the career that almost seemed to come too easy to him. He's probably one of the most athletic basketball players that I've ever seen in my life, and that's saying a mouthful.
Yeah.
Growing up watching the golden age of basketball from the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s, John Morant is not only an athlete, he's basically a freak of nature. He's not tall, he's not well built, he's little, but he plays big.
Yeah.
And I love his spirit.
And he can jump out of the arena.
Yeah, he embarrasses 7-footers, like it's a regular thing to do, and it's not a regular thing to do.
As a casual basketball fan, he's the kind of guy that I want to cheer for so bad.
Yes.
But then he goes and does the boneheaded things off the court, or actually even on the court with the finger guns.
He can't seem to get out of his own way, and again, that's one of those things where you're asking, why can't the right people get around him? Or is he not allowing the right people to get around him? And we don't know the situation with what happens once he gets out of the locker room. All we know is the example that he's leading outside of those walls. And so to all athletes, this is a reminder that you have to remember who's watching you. You have a lot of young people who are watching. You have a lot of adults who are watching you. And it really is important to put that kind of you need some sort of guidance out there.
Yeah.
Charles Barkley back in the day had one of the best commercials ever, which I don't really agree on, but he said, "I am not a role model."
I agree on his premise.
Right.
That the father in the house should be the role model.
Yes.
I agree with that 100%. But not everybody's father is on TV 7 nights a week.
No. And that's one of those things where great hook, Nike was genius with that, and we're always going to remember it. But you have to remember that major sports are a major business. Eyes are always on them, and they're on them now more than ever. Because like you and I didn't have, these kids have the ability to pick up their phone anywhere in the world at any time, watch highlights on YouTube, because they don't really watch games, they're just watching highlights. They can see these things and say, oh, John Moran, he didn't even listen to the commissioner. He's still out there pointing, and he just got fined the day before. He just got admonished the day before, and he turns around and does it again.
He didn't get fined. He got warned.
Oh, that's true. There was the warning first, and then he gets fined. Which, actually, the warning was courteous, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because in a lot of situations, I think if I'm the commissioner, I'm like...
Especially right after he sat, what was it, a 40-game suspension for actually having a gun?
A long time. That should have been sobering enough to say, wow, I'm not doing the thing I say I love the most. I should probably not mess around with any innuendos anymore.
Yeah, because if Draymond Green shot finger pistols, no big deal. If Steph Curry did it, no big deal. But because it was John Morant and the huge suspension, just like a few years ago with Draymond.
It's no different.
Because of his foot kicking out when he was blocking shots.
Yes. It's no different when I have a student playing the victim saying, I shouldn't be here. My teacher sent me here. I don't understand why I did this and this person did this. I said, okay, well, let's back up a tick here. You're here because you made a bad decision or a series of bad decisions. And you're also here because your reputation led you here. And they don't like hearing that. It's called accountability.
Yeah.
God forbid you say the A word and they're like, oh, well, I mean... And all that, I'm like, okay, well, if you can't defend yourself and all you're going to do is point the fingers, where are you going to be in 5 years? We're going to have the same conversation, but it ain't going to be nice like this.
Every time you point the finger, 3 of them pointing back at you.
Exactly. Thank you. And that doesn't change no matter how old you get, no matter how much money you're making. If the lights are on you or they're not on you, these professional athletes have got to be accountable, and a guy like John Morant could be super powerful in turning that around.
And I'm telling you, youngins, the consequences get worse as you get older.
Yeah, they don't get better. They get more expensive, too.
They get more expensive. They get worse. You're not sent to your room. You're sent somewhere else.
Well, and again, keep it on Jaw, and I don't want to pick on the guy because I want to see him do well. I think the NBA is a much better league when he's on the court. I think everybody who runs highlights would prefer that they're showing highlights about him dunking over a 7-footer rather than going to court or getting admonished by the commissioner. Having said all that, this is a business. And so whether you're on a low-level business, you have to understand, show up for your job, to do your job, be respectful to your employer. So if you're a professional athlete, you can't just say, well, my money's already in the bank, so I can just kind of cash it in and just go half speed here. I have to do what got me here, and I have to do that 100% of the time. So whether you're showing up to a gas station as an attendant or you're John Morant, where you actually could be 5 times bigger than you are because of your actions. So again, that goes to the mental health aspect too. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know how he's feeling. Maybe there's something in his life that's missing. That doesn't excuse the behavior.
No.
So if there's something that's really missing from your life, let's fix that. Let's figure out what it is. And I think all these leagues need to do it better. Talk about the stereotype thing. Big, tough guys, right? So what are we doing behind the scenes with the sports psychologists? What are they talking about? Because I know these guys employ them. I know that the teams employ them. And a lot of these guys have fitness coaches. They have mental health coaches. They have all this stuff. So what are we doing behind the scenes that's weak, that these things are still happening when the lights are on?
On a lighter note, Warren Moon gave Cam Ward his blessing to wear the number 1 jersey.
That was super cool. That was super cool. Warren, I mean, was a dog back in the day. I mean, you talk about a guy who went through a lot of stuff. He got bad media at a time where he wasn't accepted.
There could be hope for Abdul Carter and Lawrence Taylor giving him the blessing of 56.
I mean, yeah, wow. That's huge. That's.
I don't see that happening. I
don't think it should happen. I mean, Lawrence Taylor to me is the best defender of all time. I know we could have a discussion about that, but I think he not only was he ahead of his time, we haven't seen a guy like that since.
No, but every offensive tackle should thank Lawrence Taylor every paycheck they get.
I'll tell you what, he was, I think he was unique. I think he's one of a kind. I don't think we're going to see an LT again. It's sad what he has allowed to happen in his life since then, I think, because playing football actually tamed him. But yeah, Cam Ward getting the blessing from Warren Moon was an amazing gesture by Warren Moon. He has a lot of pride, and to get that number 1, it's not a great looking jersey like it was to the Oilers back in the day. You can't beat that combination. I mean, I'm a jersey head.
Yeah.
That Tennessee Titan doesn't look as good as the old Oilers back in the day. But it's still a great gesture nonetheless.
And then I'm going to cheer a little bit harder for Derek Hammond, the draft pick from the Pittsburgh Steelers last night, as he was drafted, being called by the general manager of the Steelers. His mom was in the hospital on life support. So he hung up the phone with the GM going, sorry, but I'm going to go straight to the hospital to tell my mom that her son finally got drafted in the NFL. As he did, and as he made it, she passed away later last night, a few hours after that draft pick. So very heartwarming, very sad, but I want to cheer for this kid to have a great NFL career, to make mama proud.
Easy to cheer for this kid.
Yeah.
Very easy, no matter what happens on the field at this point. Because that's the biggest moment in his life, right there. And by no fault of his own, and by no fault of his mom's, he's robbed of that, right? Now, this is really going to tell him who he is and how he reacts to this. Because he has now just got the biggest moment, the biggest contract to his life at this point. His mom was every bit a part of that dream. I think the really awesome part is that she knew what happened before it ended. I'm a big believer that actually is imprinted on you when you pass on. And as a mother, I don't think she could be more proud. I mean, what an amazing thing for the last memory that she has. And now it's up to him to carry that mantle. Obviously, as a former journalist, this is ready-made TV. This is ready-made podcast material. You can go on this for a long time. And if this kid is successful in his rookie season, this is going to be one of those, this is an easy story all year long.
It's just a great story. I'm reading through this. His mom had a lot of brain surgeries and a stroke when he was freshman year of college.
So he was kind of preparing for this.
Yeah.
But you're still never ready, you know?
That's one of the things I've always asked through my grieving process is both of my parents died quickly, no notice. Is it easier or harder to grieve knowing that the time is coming, there's got a disease, or is it easier or harder? And the best answer I can get is there's no answer.
Yeah, I think that's probably subjective. Again, I have not been through this. I have heard and I've watched both sides of that coin take place. I actually coached a kid in junior basketball who he lost his mom suddenly. She went to bed one night. They all went to bed, and she didn't wake up the next day.
Yeah.
And I have to imagine that would be not only shocking, but takes everything out from under you instantly. Whereas if you're watching somebody go through health problems for a while, you're prepping for that.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing it on purpose or not.
And for my life, when I've seen people that have struggled with cancers and other diseases for a long time, when they finally do pass, there's a sense of relief that that person's not suffering anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't want to watch that.
When you walk in on something sudden, you don't have time to prepare, and there's no relief. It just goes straight into shock and numbness.
Yeah, the only kind of suddenness I can relate to, obviously, is not the same at all, is game situation where you feel like you have a game in the bag. I've been through this as an athlete, I've been through this as a coach, and I've been through this as a fan. It's the triple whammy where you're assuming that the outcome is in hand. And then all of a sudden, it's not. And so that's the only way that actually makes sense to me, and I can process it. And again, I've seen those things happen on both sides, the long-term waiting, and I've also seen the sudden part. So the end result's the same, but I think as human beings, we need a certain bullet points of, okay, how do I deal with this?
Yeah.
And that's what the complication begins.
And it goes back to there's no written path of how I get through the other side.
There's no right or wrong way.
Well, there is a wrong way because
depends on what you're...
For the mental, for my personal grieving, I knew that if I looked at the liquor cabinet, I knew where that took me.
I got you.
And I knew it well enough and strong enough to not do that. Well, I had no way of how to get through and get the proper way through.
Well, and I applaud you for being strong enough to do that, because a lot of people don't see that. A lot of people don't censor themselves and say, I know how this is going to go. Let's be honest, humans are flawed, okay?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I was frightened to take that first step down that path, because that path was clear as day, and it frightened me of where that would lead me.
Where I can relate to that is, again, having been through chronic pain since 2006 now, right? And so, we're talking, this is 19 years. I've had situations where you're like, if I just get this one prescription, this will help me get through. I've entertained those ideas before.
Yeah.
And that's like you said, frightening. It's horrific. Because I know that's not going to fix anything. Just like with grieving, you can, whatever, you get high, you drink, whatever it is, those problems are still going to be there when you get out of that stupor. So the pain was still going to be there for me, whether I found a couple pills somewhere here or not. That's not fixing the issue. And again, that's those things where you can't control your thoughts. You can only control your actions and the decisions that you're making. And it takes a very strong person to know the difference.
Yeah, between response and between thought and response, I missed that quote badly. Between thought and action, there's a response that you can choose.
Well, it's the same thing as one side of the story. The truth is somewhere in between.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of thing. And look, we all mess up quotes here and there. All that matters is that you understand what you're reading, and that you're trying to live by that quote. I think that's the most important thing. And I know you didn't bring this up, but quote of the day is something that I do in my room, right? And this was before this was my material. I would come up with something when I was teaching sixth graders. I was trying to teach young minds that you need to have a path, that you shouldn't live your life randomly. You shouldn't let just something be intrusive and say, okay, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, my hair didn't look good, so I'm just going to ruin my rest of my day, right? you need to have some sort of program that you're going by, a creed that you're going to live by. So I wanted to teach them every day, whatever I put up on there is you're going to read it, and I'm going to ask you, what do you think about that? How did that make you feel? And you break that thing down. I think that's part of that mental health journey, and that response is, how does that make sense to me? How can I apply that to my life? I think that's very important.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure those kids didn't take every quote every day.
No,
and apply
they
it.
didn't.
But I bet you that each one of them applied one.
Well, here's the cool story. So they made me a book at the end of the year when it became the last day of school. They gifted me this little notebook that they made. They cut out all these things. What they did is they actually did write down every quote of every day of the school year, and they put it in a book for me. You talk about a breathtaking thing to get back from little minds, right? So I actually carry that with me in my backpack when I go to school every day as a reminder that it doesn't matter if they're young, it doesn't matter if they're in high school, that I can make an impact, I can turn these kids around.
And it doesn't matter if they're 70 years old and you meet them at the grocery store.
Not at all.
You can impact a life.
I think everybody needs, whether it's an emotional hug, whether it's a physical hug or a mental hug. I think that everybody needs that. It doesn't make you soft. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you human.
Yeah.
And I think both you and I can speak for a lot of people that we're kind of sick and tired of people saying, hey, man, you can't be physical like that. You can't show that you're emotional. I'm going to say, look, the real man does cry. The real man cries out for help and says, like you said, before I reach for that bottle, before I go out to that nightclub and do something I'm not supposed to do, I'm going to call up somebody who I know can listen to me. That's what I tell people. I'm not going to try to solve your problems. I'll listen to you because God knows my plate is pretty full. But you know what? I'm going to take on a little bit more if I can help you not drop that plate. I'd rather you not drop that plate if I can help you out.
All right, when we get back, we will dive deeper into the draft and look at some of the prospects that are still on the board for day 2. Yeah, it starts in 40 minutes and 48 seconds.
ESPN Northwest Florida. The Afternoon Underdogs.
Tua has, from my knowledge, has not done well against winning teams. So that is a knock on him. But also, when they seem to get in colder games, the whole team seems to shut down. That may be a leadership issue, head coach freezing on the sideline. I think they need to get tougher.
4 to 6 weekdays. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good evening. This is Joanna with your weather forecast from ESPN Northwest Florida on this Friday. Partly cloudy tonight with a wind around 2 miles per hour out of the west and a low of 69. Tomorrow morning, look for very little wind and some sun with a temperature near 79. The afternoon and evening, a high around 81 and sunshine. Sunday, very warm with a high of 82 and sunshine. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
CBC Construction is looking for a few good men. At CBC Construction, our greatest strength lies within our talented team. Join us and be a part of a dynamic company that values its people. We offer a tremendous opportunity to create a future for your family and the Florida Panhandle. CBC Construction is now hiring. Call us at 850-740-3815 or visit cbcconstruction.com to learn more. CBC Construction. Be part of a winning team.
With over 65 years of combined experience, Instant Replay Sports Cards is happy to help you take your collection to the next level. They carry all the new hobby boxes, signed memorabilia, and supplies. New and vintage cards and Pokemon. They sell and trade cards and are always looking to buy. They're an authorized source for Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, and Leaf cards. Instant Replay Sports Cards is open 7 days a week at 752 West 23rd Street, down from Academy Sports. It can always be reached at InstantReplaySportsCards.com.
Broadcasting from the CBC Construction Studios. ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Call in with your questions, hot takes, and rants at 850-215-6290.
Now, I'm sure that most of you have used a dial telephone before.
The Sports Talk Monster.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Don't forget to tune in weekday mornings from 7 to 9 and listen to the Coach James Hill Show from 11 to 1. The Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey and David Hayes. And then, of course, the Afternoon Underdogs, weekdays from 4 to 6. We are ESPN Northwest Florida, bringing you the best sports action in the entire Panhandle.
You got that right.
So, looking here at available prospects besides Shedeur Sanders, who stands out? Do you have a list pulled up?
No, I actually don't have a list pulled. I'm taking your lead, my man.
All right, so I got, according to the NFL.com, the best available prospect still available is Nate Emanuara from safety junior from South Carolina. Then we're looking at Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. Good solid pick. Shedeur third on the list. Mike Green from Marshall, an edge rusher. Mason Taylor, tight end from LSU. Trying to scroll faster. Donovan Ezekiel, a senior edge rusher out of Boston College. And Tavon Henderson, Ohio State running back.
Okay, I think that's a great segue to what we were just talking about off show right there. And where I'm going with that is everybody you just named, probably pretty good, right? They're probably going to change some franchises in the long term. But does the casual fan really know any of those names that you just said?
Travon Henderson, the running back from Ohio State.
Sure.
Because of the national championship.
Sure. But it's like the era that we've been all getting accustomed to, that we've actually taken for granted, that has spoiled us with some of the best NFL that we've seen in the last 15 years, is ushering its way out with Aaron Rodgers. So what we were talking about during, paying the bills and all that, this is a different time. This is very strange, where we don't have the pillars of the NFL as it's been known to us, especially our generation, right? So now we are relying on the young blood coming in, but we don't have a whole lot of showstoppers doing that. So the crazy thing is, we're all still silently waiting, and not silently waiting on what the heck is Aaron Rodgers going to do? What is he doing? And are the Steelers actually waiting on him? And I think that is a draft story that's still hovering around all this.
Yeah. When free agency started, all of the pundits on TV were standing there screaming, the first domino that needs to fall is Aaron Rodgers. No one else is going to sign until we know where Aaron Rodgers is going. Well, they kind of got that one a lot wrong, because everybody else is signed, and Aaron Rodgers still doesn't know where he's going.
Well, and it's like I asked you again, it's like, does this play into the narcissism of Aaron Rodgers? Is this something, is he enjoying this right now? And I have to say, I think he is. I think he is. And Pittsburgh, if you're them right now, are you freaking out yet? Because if you're a fan, I think you are. I have a good friend who's a Steelers fan, and when I was talking about this today, he's like, I have no idea what my team's doing. I don't know why we have passed up on quarterback after quarterback.
I think if you're a Steelers fan, you are so sick of hearing Aaron Rodgers, just like as a Packer fan.
Yeah.
Just like Packer fans were sick of hearing about Brett Favre as he held the team hostage. Jets fans really didn't get a taste of the Aaron Rodgers that the Packers fans are sick of. They got an injured, washed-up version who, if he does come back, he's going on a scorched earth tour, and I think the Steelers are going to the promised land.
You do? I mean, I really don't know. I don't know the version of Aaron Rodgers we'd get.
He's 2 years removed from the Achilles, so that's fully healed. He 1,000% brought that back way too early.
Yes, he did.
The Jets should have never fired Saleh.
No, I agree.
So once that dumpster fire happened, then...
But why did they fire him, though?
I don't think Aaron wanted him fired.
We both know. Aaron wanted him out.
I don't think he did. Aaron went there for Robert Saleh.
But see, this is where I don't trust him. This is the thing about him. He's one of the most talented guys we've ever seen, but I think he has run a truck over his own career because nobody trusts him. That's why he doesn't have a job right now. Nobody trusts him. I think he wanted to go to Minnesota. Minnesota said, yeah, we're not going to give up our future for you.
Minnesota doesn't want the circus.
No. And so does Mike Tomlin want that? Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers, if we just look on paper, Mike Tomlin is a guy who I love listening to him because he's super amazing. Is he just going to...
We got a special guest on the line.
Okay.
It is the host of the RebelWalk.com, Steve Barnes. wants to talk a little NFL draft.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Great. How are you doing, Steve?
Hey, I tell you what, Coach, got to compliment you on talking about the college football coaches. I came up with this thing a while back, and I told David Hayes about it, and I told Brian Haddad about it. I'm really kind of tired of the, recruiting rankings and the portal rankings. I think what we need is a retention ranking. How well did you recruit your own roster?
That's a great point, because it's not about just getting him there; it's about keeping him, right?
Exactly. I mean, how do you keep a kid there for at least 4 years?
How do you keep a kid there for at least 1 year?
I think you have to recruit for character, because anything outside of that, now you're letting not only yourself down and your career, but your team.
Who was that kid? He started at USC, went to Georgia, went to West Virginia, ended up, I think, TCU in 4 years. If I'm an NFL GM, do I want that kid? I don't think so.
If you're asking me, no. But again, I'm old school. I think some of these.
I'm older than you, Coach.
You'd be surprised. I think some of these kids are actually a victim of a time that they don't understand yet. If that makes any sense, I think it's the Wild West and it's still evolving, and nobody's can wrap their arms around it. So if you give a kid options, they're going to take it.
Well, the other thing about that is, I think they're getting bad advice.
Absolutely.
And, come on, kid. I mean, like I said, I cover Ole Miss, and Austin Simmons, who's going to be the Ole Miss quarterback this year, he was offered big money, much more than he's making at Ole Miss, to go to Florida State or Texas. And he said, no, I committed to Ole Miss. I'm here to bring my school a championship.
Yeah. Well, I think being coached by Lane Kiffin's a pretty amazing opportunity as well.
That's a kid I'll draft.
What's that?
That's a kid I would draft.
Yeah. I think that obviously staying at a place like Ole Miss that doesn't have a lot of deep history when it comes to success overall. They've had some personalities. They've had some great coaches. But, yeah, to stay there and to want to make his own legacy says a lot about him.
So speaking of Ole Miss quarterbacks, were you surprised to see that Jackson Dart was the Giants' pick at 25?
Yes and no. When he slipped past the Saints, I thought he would go in the second round. But when New York traded back up, as soon as I heard they traded back up, I said, they're taking him. The thing I love about it is he's going to sit a year. He's going to be on the sideline with the clipboard, because they have, other quarterbacks.
The worst thing is he's
not always, no.
Yeah, but do the Giants dress 3, or does he sit in the background?
Oh, I think he sits right now.
Yeah,
this year.
But they also have Jameis on the roster as the backup. Is where I'm going.
Well, they've got 4 quarterbacks, and one of them's got to go.
Yeah, and it's DeVito. I think
you would think.
Yeah,
but he's a fan favorite.
I don't think it's DeVito. I think it's going to be Winston. I think they're going to keep DeVito on the practice squad.
Ooh, okay.
So I think it's going to be Winston that's going to go.
Okay. I don't blame you there.
I love that kid. I loved him at Florida State, football and baseball. I love that kid. I just, it might be time to hang him up, man.
He's got a career as a broadcaster nonetheless.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. It's just time to hang up the cleats and grab a microphone. So the thing I don't like is he's already being compared to Eli Manning. Just because they both went to Ole Miss?
Yeah, that's not fair. That's not fair.
Yeah. They're different types of quarterback. Eli had a stronger arm. Dart, he can throw it deep, but he's not going to throw it 80 yards. But I tell you what, he's more accurate. He led FBS last year in completions over 20 yards.
Right.
And completions over 10 yards. He puts the ball on the dime.
Well, not only that, but you don't want to compare this kid to was the Tom Brady killer, not once but twice. And he was the only one to figure out the poison and be the antidote to the success machine the Patriots were. So I think that the media, a lot of times, I'm a former media member, you just kind of put your foot in your mouth because you're trying to get a good headline.
Well, I mean, I've written for newspapers since 1991, and I always hated when people said, "Oh, the media."
Right.
You know, I've never been in a press box and walked over to somebody at a rival paper and said, "Hey, let's write about this."
No, I applaud that.
No, that doesn't happen. I'm trying to beat him.
Exactly. Oh,
But
we
I'm
could
not
have a
gonna
whole
do
show
it
about
by-
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to do a sensational headline just to do it because I'm the one who's like a moron, not him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, yeah, we could definitely talk about ethics and morals when it comes to journalism because I had big competition in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I was the little guy, and I just would never sell out myself for the paper for a headline. So, yeah, that's a tough conversation.
I used to write for the Montgomery Advertiser, and I covered Troy. And we went out to Lincoln, Nebraska. We played Nebraska that year. And it was a noon kickoff, which was great for us because we're going to get on a plane at 4 and be back in Alabama by 7.
That's a nice night, yeah.
Yeah, and can watch some football if you want to. But this other writer from a rival paper kept sitting in the press box writing. And everybody on the media bus, including, by the way, the chancellor's wife, said, "Go get him. Go get him." I'm like, I can't tell him what to do.
No,
Once he came out.
You just never know
he
the
got
motivations
booed.
of the guy that you're going against.
Well, he got booed first. And then we got on the plane. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "We have a 4-hour plane ride. I'm writing my story." And he's like, "What? What? Yeah, I'm writing it now." And we got to the airport, and he had read over my shoulder, and he took some of my stuff.
Oh,
without giving
And I'm
you the credit.
just thinking, what a moron. I mean,
Party
come
foul.
on.
Wow. So yeah, you're listening to ESPN Florida ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. We are on the phone with the author of the rebelwalk.com. Steve, what are you looking forward to in today's draft?
I think Cleveland's taking Shador, either the first pick of the second round or the 36th pick. They've got to. They really got to.
If not, I think the Saints take him at 40.
I don't think he falls that far. I think somebody will trade up and get him. But the big thing to me, who's going to get Luther Burden? That guy's a stud from Missouri. I thought he was the best wide receiver in the SEC last year. And he's already in the second round. I thought somebody should have taken him first.
Yeah, I think that's something we're finding. Not only is there not a lot of drama in this draft, there's a lot of holes in it. There seems to be a lot of misnomers with the analysis, with the scouting. It seems like it's something that's really exposing not only the parity that's in college football now, but that in this draft itself, that we used the term earlier, box office, and it seems like we're talking about Shador Sanders still, and he hasn't even been officially drafted. He's not even an employee of the NFL yet. So it just goes to show you that there's a lot of pull to try and find some stories out there because the athletes that are in it, they're just not drawing maybe the right attention that they deserve.
I talked to a guy last night that I trust, and he's worked, at the Senior Bowl for years. And he just thought it's the kid's attitude. He's kind of entitled.
Right.
And that's what's holding him back. And the other thing, he's only been coached by his dad. How is he going to take coaching from somebody he doesn't go home with?
That's a good point.
Yeah, that was something I saw. That was something I saw, I believe, on Cowherd today. Cowherd was talking about that. That he's only been coached by his dad all the way up through, so he doesn't know a different type of system, doesn't know what it's like to not control who's coaching his offense, who's going home. He's never had the threat of being cut for bad performance.
And plus, Cleveland, Ohio, think about this. The fans they have, if he stumbles, they are not going to be kind to him, and he's never had that in his life.
That's exactly what we were talking about earlier, is that when you go in that environment where they're expecting to win now, even though they are not a winning franchise. They've literally never been to a Super Bowl. They have not been consistent over the years, over the decades. They've lost a lot more than they've won, and so you're going to bring in a kid who's gotten all this hype and all this attention, mainly because of his dad, not so much because of what he's done on the field. He wasn't even the star on his own team. And you're going to go to a place that had Baker Mayfield and is with my team now and is showing the player that he always was in the first place, almost ruined him. What are they going to do to this kid who doesn't have half the talent that Baker Mayfield does, in my opinion?
When I worked for the Pensacola News Journal, our receptionist was Pat Fike. Her son, Danny, played for the Browns. Now, he was a popular player. But he would tell his mom, if we lose a game at home, you have to sprint to the tunnel because they're throwing snowballs at you.
Yeah. No, it's no joke. And you hear that about the Philly fans,
what's
too.
They're going to do?
Yeah,
and plus he'd have to wear Johnny Manziel's number. That's not going to help either.
You talk about something that's cursed. My goodness. Yeah, you don't want to wear that number. You definitely have to try to figure out something else is going to work for you. Maybe 1+1 would be a better jersey number.
Wear 99. Do something.
Yeah. Anything else you want to contribute before we head on out of here?
I just like what the Giants did yesterday. They got Abdul in the first round. He's going to be a starter from day one and probably be dominant. And then they traded back up. And now they've got the quarterback for the future. He's going to sit a year, learn a little bit. I thought they had the best day. The other thing is Jacksonville paid too much to go get Travis Hunter. They paid too much because if he doesn't work out, you lost, four draft picks?
But for a team that's looking for an identity, is there too much to pay to get that identity?
And the other thing I thought was hilarious was the quarterback from Louisville, Slow, or how do you say his name? Slough, whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
We'll get it right one of these days, I guess.
Yeah, he is older than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is going to his 5th year in the league. This guy's just getting out of Louisville.
Yeah,
There's something wrong with college football.
That's Chris Winkie-like, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Except, Winkie went and did other stuff. This guy just played college football.
Right. Winkie actually was a Major League Baseball player, right?
I'm not sure if did he make the show?
I don't think he made the show. I
thought he did. I thought he played like a year or two of Major League Baseball, and he came back.
I know. He was in Double-A and oh golly, where was
Well, I guess that's kind of what I was insinuating. Is at least you got that far. If you're still playing, Double-A, that's still pro ball.
Yeah, and I worked in Double-A ball for 2 years in Mobile, and I saw guys going up. I saw guys coming back down, and they're like, yeah, I'm sticking with it because, hey, I got a chance.
That's right.
So I think Winkie did it until he said, you know what, I need to throw to Peter Warwick.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty attractive choice, right?
Yeah, it's not you don't need to be a Rhodes Scholar to come up with that one.
All right, Steve, we gotta get to a break. Talk to you Monday.
Oh yeah, okay.
All right, that was Steve Barnes, writer of RebelWalk.com, joining us. He usually joins us on Mondays from 4 to 6 on the Afternoon Underdogs. Wow, I need a break. So when we come back, the final segment of the week. Stay tuned.
ESPN Northwest Florida. We're taking the inside drive.
I follow a lot of soccer and basketball on Instagram, and you have some of these NBA players that are like, whoa, man, the Europeans, they're working on fundamentals at a young age where we're just going to tournaments and playing these games. They're really learning the game inside out before they start.
Join Ryan Mulvey.
Thank you very little.
Middays 11 to 1 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good evening. This is Joanna with your weather forecast from ESPN Northwest Florida on this Friday. Partly cloudy tonight with a wind around 2 miles per hour out of the west and a low of 69. Tomorrow morning, look for very little wind and some sun with a temperature near 79. The afternoon and evening, a high around 81 and sunshine. Sunday, very warm with a high of 82 and sunshine. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Want to experience the ultimate car wash? At Tommy's Express, you'll love our open and bright tunnels, easy loading, flat belt conveyor, unlimited membership, and free vacuums and mat washers. Try us for free. Text WASH 415 to 86697 to send our best wash, The Works, directly to your phone. You'll love the sudsy clean, ceramic wax, underbody flush, spot-free rinse, and tire gloss. Experience the difference and visit Tommy's Express today. Offer valid for new guests only. By participating, you consent to receive promotional and information text from Tommy's Express. Message and data rates may apply. Message frequency varies.
It's David Hayes with a message that could save you thousands. Jed Lawyers never charges you up front. You heard me. You pay absolutely nothing unless they win your case. No gimmicks, no surprise bills, just real legal help after a car crash or injury. They're right in downtown Panama City on McKenzie Avenue, fighting hard for people just like you. Call 850-852-0000 or head to jedwins.com to get started.
Been an up and down start for the 2025 Atlanta Braves, which means every win counts more than ever.
Michael swings and hits one way up in the air, streaking out of the ballpark as the kid strikes again.
Tonight, the Braves head west for another big National League Series win as they square up against the Arizona Diamondbacks at Chase Field.
Pre-game coverage begins at 7:25. First pitch, 8:40. Your home for the Braves, ESPN Northwest Florida.
We're live and local inside the CBC Construction Studios. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
But I wonder how much time he really kind of put into the playbook.
Where it's halftime all the time.
He may be the cream of this crop of quarterbacks.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Well, they got to do something here, but otherwise this is just going to be another lost season.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
All right, we are back for the final segment, heading into the weekend, cheering on the Atlanta Braves right here on 104.3 Northwest Florida. I would like to take this time to personally invite you guys to come out for the 4th annual Pop's Pig Pickin' Barbecue happening on Saturday, June 14th at 12 o'clock noon over at the Break Room, 2727 Joan Avenue, just up the road from the original Miss Newbies. We will have some amazing barbecue. I'm trying my best to get some whole hog barbecue going. Pool tournaments, ice cold beverages, and all proceeds are going to help support anybody that is impacted by these future storms coming up in the fall. I hate to say it that way, but we live in Florida. There's hurricanes in the Gulf Coast every year. We can't avoid them, so I'm going to get out and I'm going to help support, show some 850 love to the people that are hit. Hopefully I'm not showing 850 love to the Panama City area and somewhere outside of us, but that's just me being selfish and not wanting the hurricane to come and hit me again.
Now, you've been doing this event for 2-3 years now, and since we, earlier on the show, we were talking about your parents, this is something you're doing to honor your dad.
This is the way I'm honoring my dad, and he always would give the shirt off of his back if he could. Had a great love for my barbecue skills, and I'm not trying to brag here at all, but he had a love for my barbecue skills as well as everybody in the station that I used to feed back in the day. I should start doing that again when I get money.
That's awesome, though. I love that. That's pretty cool you're doing that.
Yeah, it's always a great way to give back to the community. We have some amazing sponsors, Golf Plus, Leanne Schwarzentrooper with Team MVP, ESPN Northwest Florida, The Break Room. These people have been sponsoring me throughout everything. Pineapple Willie's has always helped donate some food to me. But let's go make this a huge event so we can show love to those people that are going to be devastated.
Yeah, right on. No, the anxiety is real every year, you know, and that's something that I actually suffer with after Hurricane Michael, because we just about pretty much had our house leveled in Callaway. And
Hurricane Michael is why I started going out and feeding other hurricane survivors, is somebody came to Callaway to feed me.
That's incredible, man.
And they didn't ask for anything other than a hug or a shake of the hand. And that's why I am, is I'm doing this raising this money so that way I can go and not charge an arm and a leg or anything other than a hug and a shake of the hand, because at some point these people are going to pay it forward as well.
Exactly. When you talk about the aspect of mental health, I mean, my goodness, something that there are a lot of us walking around this town that have scars from that.
Oh, yeah.
Both on the outside and the inside for sure. That's going to be a great event. That's awesome.
And that was 7 years ago that hit us, and we still have open wounds.
Seems like it was yesterday, dude. It really does.
It does, and then you can turn around and seem like it was 100 years ago.
It depends on what the day it is, right? Because if it starts getting dark out there and the wind picks up a little bit, I'm one of those I get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then Hurricane Michael was the last time I saw my mom.
Really?
She came out for vacation, was supposed to be here.
Wow.
Oh, fun story. Obviously, they closed down ECP airport, so I had to get her. I got her in the last flight into Destin. When her plane took off in Denver, the engine caught on fire, so they had to turn around and get rid of the ND plane.
Wow.
She missed her connecting flight from Houston to Destin. So now I got my mom from Denver to Houston. We're almost home. And I got her on a flight to Pensacola at like 8:30 at night. At that point, I'm like, I'm just going to get a room in Pensacola, ride this out. It's not going to be that bad of a storm.
That's what we all thought.
That's what I get for trusting the Weather Channel.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that's a whole show. Right
we had a
That's
great
whole
2-week
show.
vacation in Pensacola, and then that was the last time.
Well, at least you have some positive stuff in there, though.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
So back to the mental health and the coaching aspect, what is one thing every coach should stop doing when it comes to mental health?
I think it depends on what day of the week you ask me this. I'm going to give you a different answer, but I think the safest and best answer is to stop putting the game's result over the life experience. Now, Old Dave from 7 or 8 years ago might not have said the same thing, because the result of the games has always been more important to me. But once I started finding out the impact it was having on me as the coach, when the losses were hurting more than they used to, and then seeing that today's athlete does not adjust the way the past times did, I'm like, okay, something has to change here, and it has to start with me. And so something I try to push a lot is, the scoreboard of life is much more important than the one that's inside the gym. And again, that's a tough message to deliver, but it's also a tough message for me to even believe when I say it. Because again, when we get into coaching, we usually were an athlete first. And before you were an athlete, you were a fan. And so, which is actually, and I didn't even mean to bring this up, but that's what Anthills in the Outfield is about. My second book is about remembering what got you into sports, what made you love it in the first place. And I don't think a lot of us do enough of that, peeling the onion back. And because we're just here right now, and that's all we're talking about. How did I get here? And so I think a coach's number one job is not about the wins. It's not about graduating the students if you're in college. It's about, what am I pouring into this individual that he or she can take from me and say, rather than, man, that coach was too hard on me. That coach practiced us too hard. You want them to say in a place that you're probably never going to hear it. You want them to say in an empty room at night saying, you know what, I really miss that dude because he brought out the very best of me that nobody else could.
And the real struggle is you as the coach get paid for the results of the scoreboard in the gym floor.
Exactly.
You get paid for graduating at the high school level 100% of your students.
And your reputation rides on that.
Yeah.
Your reputation is riding on the wins.
You don't get paid that little Jimmy is a better version of himself.
No.
At the end of the year than he was at the beginning of the year.
And you never will. That's the thing. That is the diabolical side of the industry itself.
Now, in youth sports, 100% that scoreboard shouldn't matter. Yes, we keep score. But I need to teach little Jimmy the proper way to field a ground ball, the proper way to see a curveball.
Right.
Let him get beat 27-2 when he's 8 years old.
Right.
So that way when he's a varsity player, he's got all the mechanics right, and we're going to the state championship.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I've also coached little kids. Okay, so I've seen this where the competitive side of me says, okay, this isn't going to result in us winning if we're missing the skill part. So I think it's incumbent upon little league coaches to stop practice more often with those coachable moments. It doesn't matter what you have in your practice plan. If you wanted to get 7 and 8 drills done tonight, you need to stop on drill 2.
And do it right.
Do it right, exactly. So you're not having to do it on practice 10, the same things you were doing on practice 1. If that's the case, you're not a good coach at that point.
And the scoreboard doesn't matter in Little League.
It doesn't. It doesn't, because you're not going to remember it anyway.
You're not coach of the year coaching 8-year-olds.
No.
You may feel like it because you're running up. Because that's what happened to me in my area growing up in western Wisconsin. Up through Little League baseball, we were killing everybody 28-2, winning every tournament, going to Kentucky and going almost to the Little League World Series. Then comes high school, and we're a 4-win team.
Yeah.
Same players. But
and then you're like, what changed?
Coaches weren't teaching the fundamentals, whereas there are other cities and towns that are getting destroyed. They're teaching all the fundamentals, so they have a lot more mentally tough high school kids.
And nothing has changed. You still need the fundamentals of every game. That's always going to be the common denominator. And we have seen that more recently than any other time. Again, when you bring up NIL, what is getting lost here is the experience that you're supposed to be getting, not only in college as to finding out who you are.
I can't make the greatest looking dish on the plate until I learn how to hold a knife.
There you go. I mean, fundamentals of life, whether it's just life itself, the career that you are in, the sport that you are in, and even in parenting. Parenting is one of those things that's fluid, and you're never going to have it all the way figured out. But if you don't know how to have a conversation with a human being, how are you going to be a good parent?
So now that we found out one thing you shouldn't do, what is one thing every coach should start doing to help with mental health?
Positive reinforcement is something that's a lot more easy said than done. Because, again, when you're there to do a job of building minds, building bodies, and building wins, a lot is going to get lost in that part of positive reinforcement. Because there's fairness, there's firmness, there's being strict, but then there's, okay, I could say, and I could blast all of you on what we didn't do well today. The challenge is I'm going to find the 3 things. Can I find 3 things that we all accomplished together today? Did we get our purpose? Did we get better? And are we going to go home given everything that we had?
So do you do like a sandwich approach?
What's that?
You did this really well. You need to work here. And you also did that very well.
I mean, I guess that's fair. You know, I'm already hungry. You're making me hungry. Yeah, no, it's that's fair. And I think that if you can stick to those pillars, if you will, I think that not only keeps you as the coach on a track that keeps you honest, but it also gives your players a directive to say, okay, coach is expecting this of us.
Yeah.
So let's be accountable. There's that word again, right? Because you can't be a good team, number one, without great athletes. But even if you don't have the great athletes, you're not going to be a great team if everybody's letting each other down, if you're an individual. That's what that movie Hoosiers is all about, which is one of my favorite movies.
Great
because
movie.
They had the least amount of talent out of that whole state.
But they had the biggest heart.
They had the biggest heart, they had the will, and they had the challenge to prove everybody wrong. And that's extremely motivating factor. That's fuel to say, a lot of these guys in this draft have been getting passed up, right? This is real-time stuff. They're like, man, this is fuel.
I love the death call scene in Facing the Giants. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's more of a Christian faith-based movie.
You know, I've missed
about
that
turn
one.
of the about.
So tell me about that.
Turn of the century. So right before practice, they're all sitting around getting ready to stretch, and the star middle linebacker goes, "Coach, you think we have a chance to win this game? They're really good. They've won every game." And he's like, "You're already defeated." And he's like, "I bet if I put this kid on your back, you can do a death crawl for 10 yards."
I've seen that. Okay, yes.
And then they're going, and instead of the 50 yards that he said he could do, he did death crawled the whole entire.
And that's great coaching.
Yeah, it's great coaching.
You're taking a moment that actually has nothing to do with the game itself. It's challenging you as an individual and saying, look, I just changed your mindset.
Yeah.
Right here, right now.
And you're the captain of my team, so since I changed your mindset, I just changed the entire team's mindset.
Well, they're going to follow that, and you're banking on that.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't step up in that moment and prove you right, everybody loses.
All right. Thanks for joining us today on the Afternoon Underdogs.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Coach Ford. Sunday, 1 to 3 at
the Bookish Boutique,
the
downtown Harrison Avenue. That's right, the only bookstore downtown.
All right, don't forget Coach James Hale tomorrow from 7 to 9. Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey, 11 to 1. We are out. Go Braves.
Keep the game going with ESPN Northwest Florida. Just because you get out of the car doesn't mean the Sports Talk and Live play-by-play have to end. Just say, hey, Alexa, open ESPN Northwest Florida. From Michigan Avenue to the Man Cave, from the car to the kitchen, we've got you covered. Keep the game going. Hey, Alexa, open ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good evening. This is Joanna with your weather forecast from ESPN Northwest Florida on this Friday. Partly cloudy tonight with a wind around 2 miles per hour out of the west and a low of 69. Tomorrow morning, look for very little wind and some sun with a temperature near 79. The afternoon and evening, a high around 81 and sunshine. Sunday, very warm with a high of 82 and sunshine. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
When you bring your vehicle to Panama City Toyota for repairs or maintenance, you'll get the warmest welcome around.
That's because we see service differently.
It's not only an expert team that can help with everything, from simple adjustments to a new set of tires. It's also a team that values your time, so we make your experience as quick and comfortable as possible. Because we're committed to service that goes beyond. Only at Panama City Toyota.
Whether you're an experienced investor or first-time buyer, Beach House will provide you with top-notch service to guide you through every step of the process. We make the real estate process fun and easy through effective marketing, strategic advertising, and always a client-focused experience. From single-family homes to full-scale developments, Beach House Sales Development has you covered. Check them out at beachhousesalesfl.com or give them a call at 850-919-3500.
Powered by Panama City Toyota. WGSX Lynn Haven, WTOT, W271DM Mariana, WVLQ Port St. John.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Counting down, about to put the anchor down. Hotty toddy, who's it gonna be? Cowbells and swamp, the ag is wrong. There's nothing like the SEC. The weekend's full of surprises. From Williams Bryce to Death Valley, on the Fine Bomb Show, Paul's on a roll. If he don't get the best of